grocery store, whether you're going to the grocery store to pick up that product, whether you're going to visit family for Thanksgiving, you're expending energy. And if we want to address affordability in this nation, the best way to do that is to address the fundamental cost of energy. If we're going to do that, we've got to produce more of it. And I happen to be from the great state of Alaska, where we do have abundant natural gas, where we do have abundant oil reserves. But in the previous 4 years, under the Biden administration, we were not allowed to access those important resources for the American people. In fact, under Joe Biden, there were more than 70 executive orders and actions that specifically targeted Alaska, preventing us from developing the oil and gas resources of the state and the critical minerals that we're hearing so much about today. Today's bills help unlock the resources of Alaska for the benefit of the American people, and do so in a durable fashion. In the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska and the 1002 area of our North Slope. That's 20 million acres unlocked for the benefit of the people of this nation. And I want to thank the leadership team who has prioritized affordability in this country again, who understands that affordability begins with resources and our ability to add value to those resources. Alaska is ready to be a part of that solution, and I'm proud today to introduce these bills, get them passed, and send them over to the Senate. Thank you, and I turn it over to our great whip, Emmer.
Thank you. These days, anti-Trump temper tantrums seem to be the Democrat Party's MO. Instead of helping us, Republicans in the House, the President in the White House, and the Senate majority, instead of helping us secure our border, cut taxes, and make life more affordable for the American people, Democrats have shown time and time again that they're more interested in opposing President Trump and his successful agenda at every turn. But their obstruction and partisan games will not deter our efforts to deliver countless wins for the American people. This week, House Republicans are returning to Washington with a packed agenda, full of promises kept. Where the Biden administration and climate alarmists stifled our nation's energy production and caused prices to skyrocket, House Republicans and President Trump are restoring America's energy security and ensuring affordability. Where Democrats put violent criminals above innocent Americans, Republicans are ensuring our communities are safe from dangerous offenders. And where Democrats chase headlines and mislead the public, Republicans are actually pursuing transparency and justice. The contrast could not be more clear. Republicans govern, Democrats obstruct. We already passed the largest middle-class tax cut in American history with absolutely no help from Democrats. And that was just the beginning. Now, as you see, that we're back from this ridiculous, needless shutdown caused by Democrats. We're moving full steam ahead to make up for the days that they have taken away with their delusional shutdown. And with that, I'll turn it over to our leader, Steve Scalise.
Well, thank you, Whip. And it's good to be back. It's good to have the Democrat shutdown ended and the pain, the suffering that went on for way too long finally be over. And now to see the House back doing its business. And of course, we missed a few weeks, and so we're making up for lost time. We have a very robust schedule this week. As you can see, full 5-day work week. We're going to be working and having some late night votes. Today we have 3 vote series going into the night, and our members have rolled up their sleeves and are ready to get back to work too. The committees are going to be meeting into the night this week and beyond to catch up and get back to focusing on those issues that we've been fighting for this entire Congress, and that is fighting for those families who have been struggling under the failed Biden agenda. All we saw under the Biden and Democrat agenda was higher costs for families, higher inflation, higher interest rates, open borders, chaos around the world. And President Trump has reversed that quickly. As you look at all of the things that this president has done, working with this Congress, we have been focused on fixing the problems that Biden created and then really setting a new course, getting this country back on track. lowering costs for families. You heard Chairman Guthrie and Congressman Begich talk about this great energy agenda that we're continuing to deliver on. Of course, in the Working Families Tax Cut, so we had a lot of provisions in that bill. In fact, that Congressman Begich himself brought forward to open up areas in Alaska. I walked the Alaskan pipeline in Section 1002 of the North Slope, and to see all of the ability to produce energy in America that had been shut down under Joe Biden. We couldn't even produce the energy we know we have here in America because of stupid policies by the Biden administration. And we've been reversing that. Many of those provisions that Congressman Begich campaigned on, he already delivered on in the Working Families Tax Cut, but there's more to do. And so we're bringing some of those bills to the floor this week. You're going to see the Department of Interior probably this week, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, roll out their 5-year leasing plan for the Gulf of America. Again, something that President Biden shut down that drove investment to foreign countries. We saw billions of dollars of energy investment moving to foreign countries because Biden shut down America. Well, America's open up for business again. And that means more jobs here in America, but really importantly for families, lower energy costs. And energy costs affect everything that we do. When you go to the grocery store, lower energy costs mean lower food costs for families. And so we're going to keep delivering on that agenda. Obviously, this week, it's going to be a very aggressive schedule, and we're going to continue to move bills in the future. Something else the Democrats broke, and we talked about this a lot during the shutdown here at this podium, and that is the healthcare crisis in America. The current law in healthcare is the Affordable Care Act. I think everybody would recognize it's unaffordable for millions of American families. And yet they have dumped more families into that plan, and the cost increase are evident. 80% increase in costs for families since Obamacare passed. And yet, as the Affordable Care Act has failed to work for families, Democrats continue to try to shove hundreds of billions of dollars more into that failed program and not giving relief to families, but giving COVID subsidies to insurance companies. That's what Democrats were fighting for. You saw President Trump today saying one of the things we want to do as Republicans is give those tax credits to families, not to insurance companies like Democrats want to do, but to give it to families. We've been working before the shutdown with our 3 relevant committees, Chairman Guthrie's committee in Energy and Commerce, Chairman Jason Smith in Ways and Means, and Chairman Wahlberg over in Education and Workforce. The 3 committees that work on healthcare policy to focus on legislation that would actually lower costs for families and give families options so they're not trapped in the Unaffordable Care Act policies that drive up their premiums. And so we've brought bills. We had some of those we talked about in the Working Families Tax Cuts that didn't make it all the way through the process. We're going to be coming back to that. We moved PBM reform last year, very bipartisan bill that Chuck Schumer sat on because he and Democrats don't want to lower costs for families. We do. And we're going to keep bringing those bills over the next few months. We're working with all of our members. We talked about it again today in conference. But we've been working on it for months. We've been bringing bills to the floor. And Democrats, sadly, have walked away from this because all they want to do is force people into unaffordable products, the Unaffordable Care Act. They want families to have to pay more in premiums because they want a single-payer, government-run healthcare system. It has failed the American people, and they deserve better, and we're going to deliver better for American families. And finally, today we released the calendar for next year, so I know you're all interested in what that's going to be. We're going to have a very busy agenda next year. We're going to continue to deliver here in this Congress for American families. We've got a lot to do this year, and we're going to be doing a lot more this year. But we're also going to have a very busy agenda next year. Democrats they're in disarray right now as a party, but they've got to decide. Are they going to work with us here in this Congress to actually deliver for the American people? Are they going to continue to have, as the Speaker talked about, that Trump derangement syndrome? All they do is wake up every day and say, how can they oppose Donald Trump, no matter what he wants to do? When Donald Trump wants to help families, all they do is wake up and say, what is he doing? And they try to do the opposite because they're radical Mondami wing of the party just wants to fight President Trump. Well, that's not where America is. America wants to get results. America believes in common sense. We're going to have a resolution Friday that says we stand up against socialism and the atrocities of it. It's not just the bad policies. It's led to murder all around the world where it's been tried. And they don't teach that history, unfortunately, enough in our schools. And so a lot of young people don't even get exposed to the atrocities of socialism, but we'll surely be talking about it and voting on it this Friday. A pretty easy vote, I think, for most people. Hopefully they say, no, we believe in freedom, opportunity, and we stand against socialism. We're going to have that opportunity this week as well, while we're also focusing on affordability. With that, I'm sure you may have a couple of questions for the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Thanks, sir. Front row, go ahead.
The president campaigned on this idea of transparency. In the name of transparency, he released the MLK files. In the name of transparency, he released the JFK files. Why not, in the name of transparency, call on the president to just release the full Epstein files? He doesn't even need Congress to have this vote.
Well, the president's made very clear his position over the last few days, his truth post over the weekend and what he said. I mean, he had a press gaggle yesterday, said the same thing. He says release all the files. He's been saying that. What he was counting on and what we were insistent upon is using the processes of Congress, as I explained here in great detail this morning, to do it in the right way so that it's not haphazard. And Congress has a role to do that. The Oversight Committee is the appropriate place for this to be done, and that is what is happening right now, as you've all seen. And so we preferred that route. And by the way, as I mentioned, that route is more comprehensive than anything the discharge petition would accomplish anyway, because it didn't even mention the Epstein files and some of these other things, I mean, the estate files. So we want the process to play out. We want it to be done in the right way. We want to do it in a way that doesn't jeopardize our legal system and doesn't inflict more harm on victims. And the president is resolute on that, as we have been, and that's why we opposed this gambit from the beginning. Yes?
Do you acknowledge that by voting for this discharge petition today, that is a reversal for you, that you could have put this on the floor months ago and may not have even needed to have a discharge petition if you had supported it months ago?
No, it's not a reversal, as I just explained. We had big problems with the discharge from the moment it was filed. We talked with the authors. There was lots of people that went and pleaded with them to fix it so that everybody could be together, because we've been for maximum transparency. But again, there's a reason you have rules and processes here to ensure that this is not done haphazardly. And I was not satisfied with that. But I've been for maximum transparency from the very beginning. We wanted the process to play out. So, yes.
I understand where you're coming from with your concerns with the discharge petition. I also understand your want for transparency. In this case, you've been very clear on both those fronts for weeks. So is the reason why you're now deciding to vote for this resolution because President Trump directly said Republicans should vote for this? Because this has been your position all along, and you've made it clear you weren't in support of this resolution.
If and when the discharge reached the 218th signature, it'll be forced. And the forcing mechanism here prevents the very deliberate, professional, careful manner in which Congress is supposed to do this. I lament that. That's why I'd been opposed to it all along. But having now forced the vote, none of us want to go on record and in any way be accused of not being for maximum transparency. So the only intellectually consistent position to have right now, the only way to ensure that both those things are true at the same time, is to allow for everyone to vote their conscience and to go on record to say, of course, we're for maximum transparency. Now, I'll tell you, there's a handful of Republicans, Judiciary Committee members, and a few others who are really struggling, as I have been, about whether or not they could even vote yes today because of this, because we don't have an absolute guarantee that this will be fixed in the Senate. I have a high degree of confidence in that, and that's why that's why I'll be voting yes today. And I've talked about that at great detail. We had a hour and a half long conference call on Sunday with Judiciary Committee members who are really, really concerned. I mean, they're all for maximum transparency, but they're really, really concerned about protecting the victims, and I am as well, and that's why we have gone through this whole long process. Last one, Olivia, go ahead.
On that, James Blair today at a Bloomberg event said that they're looking at ways to send millions of Americans checks from tariff dividend revenue, but without Congress being involved. Do you have concerns about them not running that sort of process through Congress?
Well, I'm not sure that's possible, and James Blair and I will have some intense fellowship about that, I'm sure. He's a good friend. We collaborate on strategy all the time. But this is an idea, I think, that makes sense. The president was talking about it as recently as yesterday. I think what I heard him say, and I haven't talked to him about it because he and I have both been so busy the last 24 hours, I'll see him in a little while. But I think what I heard him say yesterday is he's thinking about something maybe midway into next year when the tariff revenue is realized and we can figure out what that looks like. But I think it would require an act of Congress, so we'll have to see how. I'm not sure what's being proposed, so it's sort of a hypothetical. Last one, yeah.
Getting specifically to the substance here, reading through the bill though, I guess I'm confused because the bill specifically says the Attorney General may withhold or redact portions related to child sexual abuse materials as defined in the law, anything jeopardizing federal investigations. It specifically says they can withhold anything containing personal identifiable information of victims, personal medical files. We know the survivors are comfortable with that. All of these things are actually in this bill.
They're not. Let me give you an example. And we could be up here for a long time. I'll litigate it with you because I brought all this stuff. All right. Okay. So the first one you mentioned. Okay. So here's the HRS 581. This is the discharge. Okay. It says on page 5, redact anything that depicts or quote depicts or contains child sexual abuse material (CSAM) as defined under 18 U.S.C. 2256. Okay. All right. So you go to 18 U.S.C. 2256. Definitions of the chapter. Nowhere in this section, okay, go look it up, all right, does it contain the definition of child sexual abuse material. So I used to litigate federal cases, and I would challenge statutes in court, okay? The language is very important and very precise. If it's not listed here and this were to become law, child sexual abuse materials are not included. They're not included for redaction, which means the Attorney General and someone there, if they interpret the discharge in the statute that it passes directly and literally, as they're supposed to do, they're required to do under the law, then you're going to have things that would qualify under child sexual abuse materials. You have child pornography included in the distribution of this stuff. We can't go for that. And why did they? No, it's not up to the Attorney General because the way it's listed in the document. No, it's not. It's not because it doesn't reference the right code section. So we could go through every one of these things. We have had a small army of lawyers going through it because I want to make sure that all of my concerns, because I read it the first time initially and I thought, whoa, this is way out of bounds. We have in fact, we'll put on the speaker.gov. I'll put it on the website here when we leave. You'll see the summary of the legal analysis, and it goes through point by point, and it points to the specific sections in the discharge. Guys, we're not making this up, and you can take it to your counsel at your outlet's offices and have them review it, and they'll tell you the same thing. This should have been done in a much more careful manner, and it was not. And I'm going to point out again, when the authors were asked to fix it, they said they weren't interested in doing that. Okay, why? Because this is a raw and obvious political exercise. Again, I'm just going to leave you with this question. You should go ask them all. If you were so concerned about the Epstein files and protecting the victims, why didn't you do a darn thing about it for the 4 years of the Biden administration? All this stuff was sitting in a warehouse, and nobody said a word about it. They didn't care. Now they're doing it. We all know why, because they're trying to attack President Trump. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.